Human capital is one of Nigeria's greatest assets, and women make up nearly half of our country's population at 49.43%, according to the World Bank. Yet, while women fuel the economy and sustain families, they remain vastly underrepresented where decisions are made. The newly formed Nigerian Women in Leadership Coalition, a partnership between WILAN, WIMBIS, WISCA, and the Nigeria Governors Forum, recently made a historic call: a modern labor reform that supports working parents, 35% women's representation in executive management and boards, and 35% women in federal and state cabinets. This is a vision that demands equity in how we shape the nation's future. Welcome to another episode of the Leading Woman Show Season 4, themed The Nigeria We Want. Brought to you by our partners, the National Endowment for Democracy and Luminate. I'm your host, Abosede Jojogan. On this episode titled, What Nigerian Women Want: Gender, Inclusion, and Opportunity, we will explore the subject of inclusion and access to opportunities for Nigerian women. Beyond symbolism and benevolence, Nigerian women want safe, equitable workplaces, healthcare systems that respond to their specific needs, and pathways to leadership that reward merit, not proximity. Studies show that when women lead, societies prosper. The Women in Leadership Coalition's demands represent a national blueprint to modernize labor laws, rebalance corporate governance, and ensure women's voices shape decisions at every level of government. In this episode, we will discuss moving from advocacy to action, looking at how institutions can become enablers of gender equity, not gatekeepers, along with our guests who lead, and champion the fight for inclusion. Please welcome Hawa Haliru Hassan. Hawa is the Chief Executive Officer at the Nigeria Governors Spouses Forum Secretariat, a non-governmental organization dedicated to advocacy efforts aimed at improving the lives of women and children in Nigeria. In addition to her role as CEO, she also serves as the Director of Gender Affairs at the Nigeria Governors Forum Secretariat. She has extensive experience working with civil society institutions and NGOs. We also have Amina Oyagbola, a lawyer, global HR thought leader, business management consultant, and independent director with over 35 years of experience in legal practice, human resources, and corporate management in Nigeria's leading sectors. Amina is the founder and chairperson of Women in Successful Careers WISCA, a leading gender empowerment and mentoring network for professional women. She's also the managing consultant at AKMS Consulting and a partner at Oyagbola Chambers. Finally, we have Adebisi Adeyemi. She's the managing director, CEO of DCSL Corporate Services Limited, a lawyer and MBA holder from Lagos Business School. She was the president of the Nigeria British Chamber of Commerce. She is also passionate about corporate governance and authors a weekly business column on governance and leadership. She is the immediate past chairman of WIMBIS. Together, we will dissect what inclusion means beyond policies and how it can transform not just women's lives, but that of the entire nation. I'm sure you cannot wait to dive into this conversation, so let's dive in. Welcome to today's episode of the show where we're talking about what Nigerian women want: gender, inclusion, and opportunities. I'm really delighted to have all of you here. Thank you so much for being on the show.
It's
and
a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
All right. So it's sad that we have to be having this conversation about what Nigerian women want. I have to be honest. But Mr. Adeyemi, let me start with you. When you hear the phrase, what Nigerian women want, what comes to your mind?
First of all, I wonder why we're distinguishing between Nigerian women. Women want the same thing all over the world, I think. And that is essentially equality, fair treatment, a level playing field.
So and I think that's... Sorry, can I just stop you and say that equality is a dirty word in some spaces.
I understand that.
And they make us use equity.
Yes.
So, you know, when you say that, I know somebody just thought that. So I thought to just voice it out.
That's fine. The level field is not, the field is not level. So that's why equity really does come into play.
Exactly. Yeah. Fabulous. Thank you so much. How well, let's hear from you.
Well, I believe equity, I use the word equity all the time. I think during the last dispensation, when we were trying to pass the 5 gender bills, we used the word equality. We believe it didn't take us anywhere, so we decided to change the phrase. May mean the same thing, but equity is what Nigerian women want. Equal opportunity is what Nigerian women are desiring for.
Exactly. Mrs. O, why equality, equity? We want equality and equity.
Okay, so I think, my sisters have already, covered the field substantially. What I think Nigerian women want is equal opportunity. We want an equal opportunity takes into consideration the fact that we are all not equal. The fingers are not equal, but we are equal in the sense that we're all human beings.
That's correct.
Right? So we want equal rights. We want, women's rights, as Hillary Clinton has said, are human rights.
Yeah. That's correct.
So we want equal opportunity. We want human rights. We want fairness, and we want justice. And as has already been said, the field is not level. The gaps are there, and we need to play catch up.
Absolutely.
And we need to play catch up very, very quickly.
Quickly.
Yes.
Mr. Adeyemi, in your own personal journey, what are some of the barriers that you've had to face, whether seen or unseen, to show up as a woman in our context, Nigeria?
And I think it's as you grow up the ladder, the leadership ladder, it becomes more obvious. If you had asked me this question a few years ago, I've said, really, it doesn't matter. Everybody is the same as far as I'm concerned. But as I grew up in my career, I realized that there were certain unseen barriers, the perception, the stereotypes. So you're in a meeting in a room full of men, and the minute you look at your wristwatch, you're looking at the time, everybody just goes, and I could be doing that for different reasons. If a man does that, nobody really pays attention, but they're thinking, oh, she has to go home and look after the children and all that. And I've actually been in a room where the chairman actually stopped the meeting and said, Mrs. Adeyemi, are you okay? Do you think we should? And I said, I'm fine. I've made arrangements at home. Everything is all right. But they always feel that because you're a woman, somehow you're at a disadvantage. So I think that increasingly, like I said, is in my leadership journey that I realized that indeed those barriers are there, and they're not just in my mind. They're actually real.
They're real. Mrs. O, let me come to you. One of the things that our coalition is pushing for is a modern labor reform around parental leave. So not just maternity leave or paternity, both parents should be available to care for their children. So in your own personal journey, what are some of the barriers that you've had to navigate to show up as a woman in Nigeria? And one that we would call accomplished, because that's another thing, right? Because people don't expect that you would actually break those barriers.
Okay. The barriers are enormous, both structural, cultural, institutional. On the institutional side, you have the unconscious biases, the stereotyping, very, very subtle nuances that take place, and the complete absence of the support system and structure that you need as a woman. Yes, we are the same in the sense that we are human beings. We have the same intellect, the same motivations, the same aspirations and goals. but we're different biologically and
That's
physiologically, and we have to accept that. Because you're the carrier and bearer of children, you know, that affects you as a human being, because you go through a whole process for 9 months. If you're lucky, like I was very healthy through that process. So I didn't have to make any excuses, no apologies about being ill or going to the doctor. But notwithstanding, when you actually now deliver that child, you know, your body needs to rest and to recover.
That's right.
You've gone through a major transformation, you know, from your body. And there's no sympathy, there's no understanding in the workforce or in the workplace. It's almost like, you know, well, you know, she's had a baby, the performance management system and framework should still carry on, all the assignments should still, nobody makes provision for the fact of your absence for those 3 months, and that when you come back, you can't come back, you know, 100% full steam ahead. You need some support. In addition, we're not selfish. The women are also saying 16 weeks paid leave, but in addition, as a coalition, that is WIMBIS, WISCA, WILAN, we're also asking for, and the Nigerian Governors Spouses Forum, we're also asking for 2 weeks, 14 days paternity leave for our men. Why? Because whether you like it or not, when they rush me to hospital to go and have my baby, my husband has a role to play. When I'm being discharged, he has a role to play. And for the first couple of weeks, I need support. And he will support me whether you give him that time off or not.
All right. So, Hawa, let's come to you. I want you to think about navigating Nigeria as a northern woman. What are some of the barriers that you have faced, or maybe none?
Wow. I think the northern woman's story is slightly different, mainly because, again, the cultural barrier, it plays a major role. So it's not just cultural, it's also the religious, you know, barrier that limits you in so many ways. I mean, you don't even want to aspire. When you do, you don't even want to openly aspire to be anything, because then you would be seen as an outcast. You would be seen as maybe a rebel or someone that is trying to bring something strange into the community that would distort, you know, the traditional setup or the religious setup that is already established and is like the way of life of that people. So that's what another woman has to navigate through. I mean, it's really sad to think that up till now, we're still talking about those social, cultural, and religious barriers. They're still there.
So, I mean, just picking up on this, Mr. Demi, let's talk about, so we just launched a report, that's what's next to you, the State of Women's Leadership Report. Out of our top 50 listed companies on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, only 5 are chaired by women. So it's good to see the uptake. And I know WIMBIS played a critical role in financial services, for example. But what is the challenge? And you've just shared one with us, but is it the skill sets? I want us to break it down. Like, what is it, the skill sets?
In my book, I think women perhaps are even more skilled, because they're the ones that, you know, get the extra certification and all of those things. So clearly it's not a skill set thing. I think largely, you know, board membership is still a gentleman's club, because when those vacancies exist on the board, they always go to their own traditional networks. You know, they will ask their friends, and, you know, and women are typically, it's becoming a lifestyle for women to now then go to those traditional places as well, you know, and then begin to build their own networks, which is what WIMBIS has to a large extent done, and other female-led organizations.
If I may chime in on this as well, just to add to what my sister has already said so eloquently, is to also say it's about power and influence. We cannot discount that. The decisions around who is going to be appointed to the board. Yes, you have nominations and governance committees. Some companies will engage consultants, you know, like my sister here, you know, to assist them with the process. But the bottom line is whoever is playing the piper dictates the tune. So you have to follow the money. You know, you commented on, you know, the role WIMBIs played, for example, with the financial institutions, and we can see the result of that CBN advisory that has led to many women now becoming CEOs. But the question, you know, you need to ask is, how many women own financial institutions?
That's a good question.
How many women own financial
It's
institutions?
going to happen, I can assure you.
Sorry?
It's going to happen.
Oh, it's beginning.
It's beginning to happen.
Yes.
So you're seeing women have angel networks where they invest, you know, and they're beginning to generate wealth. They're creating wealth for themselves, you know. But I agree totally that it's where the money flows from.
That,
you know,
that the power and the influence,
you know,
on who then sits on those
absolutely,
boards.
absolutely.
I mean, how, let's now bring it to the public sector. Yes, to the public sector, where unfortunately things are not as rosy.
Yes.
You know, our report also shows that in state cabinets, only one state has crossed the 35% mark. Kwara.
Yes.
It is disheartening.
Absolutely, so.
It's disheartening.
So the governors are committed to ensuring that they meet that at least the 35%, which is good, which is a starting point.
Absolutely.
I mean, Kwara State should be up to 50%, and he is our
It's
champion.
46%, which is not bad.
It's amazing.
So
It's
Kwara
amazing,
State
yeah.
I think
is our
we should
champion.
clap for Kwara State.
Yes, indeed.
And so he's our gender champion. We need, I keep saying this, but I mean, sometimes when I talk about it, people just push it away. We need men as our allies to push this narrative for us as well. We need to work side by side with them. Kwara has seen that during his first dispensation, he had 51
percent women's
more women representation in his cabinet than men.
They have the youngest female commissioner.
Yeah.
They have the
youngest
elected
parliamentary.
Yeah.
She's 27 years old.
Both of them were
He
at the Women's
supported
Conference
her
last
all
year,
through. They took her all the way to the Supreme
to the
Court.
Supreme Court.
And he stood by her and she won her
she won.
seat. You know, so
That's
we
awesome.
very,
Absolutely.
very.
And,
so
and I mean, just to emphasize that's why the coalition is calling for this minimum 35%.
And he's not
Because we've
asking for
seen-
too much.
No, and we've seen that where political will,
Political
is
where
there.
there's political
And accountability.
will
Yes,
and
and
accountability,
then.
we can make this happen. This is a good place to take a break. We'll continue the conversation when we return. Welcome back. We're still discussing what Nigerian women want: gender, inclusion, and opportunity. Mr. Demi, I want to ask you a question about women's economic empowerment. You started speaking to it earlier about the fact that women are now building wealth. But what are the practical steps that we can take to go from just potential to actual opportunity?
So I think that we need to start to take things into our own hands. And that's when I spoke about angel investors. It's one way to grow wealth. You know, how do you get a seat on the table? Create the table yourself. I mean, there's a female or all-female owned bank launched recently by Mrs. Folake Abdurazak. You know, it's an all-female bank. I think the board is all-female as well. And before you know it, people are already asking questions. Okay, so it's okay to have an all-female board. So why not? I mean, I own the bank. I decide who I want to appoint, who sits on the board. So really, actually, I think if we begin to have more of those, then those critical mass would get there.
Yeah. So I'm reminded of a few years ago where Whisker had organized a fundraising dinner for women who wanted to run. Because these are the kind of things that are possible when women have the means. How can we ensure that more women build wealth and are able to actually back, you know, women to also go and run for political office so that we actually get a seat at those tables?
Women have a lot of power. We represent 50% of the population.
Yes.
We are the largest segment of the voting population in Nigeria. We vote for the men that are leading us, who are not empowering us. So when is the penny going to drop for us to begin to reverse that trend, to say, you know, we actually have power. We actually have a voice. We can actually get together. And that's what we're trying to do in this coalition. To say, let the women organizations pull their forces together and begin to drive their agenda and advocacy for the things that women want. And we want to see a change happen in 2027. And if that change does not come in 2027, then Nigeria will see a change by 2030.
It actually has to happen. It has to happen in 2027.
From your perspective, how do we build this economic power that we're talking about? And I say that, I ask you that with a huge sense of responsibility, knowing that in the North is a completely different story. So if you can share that perspective.
So for me, I think financial literacy, very, very key. Financial inclusion. So you don't even get to do any sensible business or grow your business if you don't have the financial literacy. So building capacity of our women in the North, because we have, every woman is a trader, petty or selling something. But I mean, how are you doing it? Is that business able to give you the opportunity to access loan in the bank? Most times the answer is no. So we have to build the financial literacy of those women at the subnational and in the North especially. Digital literacy, very, very key. The gap is so wide between the men and the women in terms of digital literacy. And you start to gain a lot if at least to a certain extent you have that capacity, to be able to do businesses online. There are so many online businesses that are thriving now, especially because as the typical Northerner, you don't even have the opportunity. And for some of us that have the opportunity to go out and do whatever we want, there are some that are locked up in the house that cannot afford to do that. But if you empower them digitally,
it bridges that gap automatically.
Exactly.
Amazing.
So what we're trying to focus more in the North is building the capacity of our women in terms of financial literacy and digital literacy. And then also try to see if we're able to access loans so that they can grow their businesses. We're trying to ensure that, the men are with us in terms of this. I remember a couple of weeks ago, my sister in Kaduna called me. She works with the Bureau of Statistics in Kaduna as a director. And so they were doing this empowerment program. She told me with a very, very heavy heart that just as they were giving this woman the money, some were giving money, some were giving tools, some were giving materials and seeds. Yes, seeds to just go and improve or start a business or grow a business. As they're stepping out of that hole, they were cashing it out. Because at the end of the day, the business will not thrive if they go home. So they would rather just take the money and just do, take care of their immediate needs. And that was, so it is, we still have a long way to go. We still have a lot of sensitization to, carry out in the North, to let the women know that, once you are able to make something out of your life, the entire livelihood of your family, it's positively improved. And we can give examples to amongst of some of us that have gone to school. You can see the difference because, my children are different from, say, a cousin that has lived all her life in Zaria and has not gone to school. The quality of life, the quality of education that they have, the standard of living is totally different. And it is only possible for my kids because I have gone to school.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Demi, I want to talk about what men and institutions can do to promote gender equality. This is not a women's issue, women should not be the only ones trying to address it.
It's not. So we definitely need male champions. And I think a lot of them are coming up because they've come to realize that really and truly the women get the work done. So they have to then enable the women to perform. As we said at the beginning, you're not giving them handouts.
Yes.
The woman has to go and have a baby. What kind of flexibility does she have? I've seen women, the day after they've had the baby, they're ready to get back to work, but perhaps from their homes. So how flexible do you make these things for them? And then when they come back to work, how flexible is it? So I think the policies in the workplace, the flexibility of work, the access to healthcare and all of that is what the men can do. And then they should speak up. And then if a man has a choice between hiring a woman and a man, really and truly, he knows that the woman can do the job better, but there are concerns around, oh, she's going to have a child, just like she said, you're going to have a child, you're going to take maternity leave. Let the men understand that this is just the reality of nature, because they're the ones that carry the baby, they're the ones that eventually give the care. And so they should make the field level. And the only way to make the field level is to make sure that opportunities exist for women that enable them to be the caregivers that they are naturally. Exactly. And so when they come back from maternity leave, they're not playing catch up. So the same place that they left, and if there are things that have happened whilst they were away, they should be bumped up. I mean, and it's not a handout kind of thing. It's just a reality. It's reality. It's a reality. Ensure that there's flexible working hours. They can work from anywhere. Like I said, I mean, I'll just give an example. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to interview a young lady for a role in a chamber of commerce. And at the end of the interview, a couple of weeks after, she called me and said she's pregnant, that she didn't realize it at the time she was interviewing. I said, so what? You're not ill, you're pregnant, you're going to have a baby. And she said, she thinks it's going to be a problem, because I mean, it's a room full of men, I probably was the only woman on the team at the time. I said, I've known you, I think you have a track record of performance. And that's exactly what happened. She was working up until the day she had the baby. In fact, she attended a meeting in the morning, and by evening she sent me a message that she had had the baby. And she continued to work. So really, it's about ensuring that there's a level playing field. That and there's support, absolutely. There's support and care, and empathy, putting yourself in the shoes of the woman.
I think she only got that because you understood it. I don't think a man would have given her as much grace.
It wouldn't happen. And that's what I'm saying, that the men, because you asked the question, what should the men do? They should put themselves, because I mean, they're born of women after all, they didn't just drop from the skies, so they should put themselves in the place of the woman and say, what would I do if I was a woman in this woman's shoes?
Fantastic. Mrs. O, I want to come to you. I have a theory that I haven't tested.
Okay.
In private sector, where men own most of the businesses, they are so comfortable to put women as CEOs. And my theory is because they can see the bottom line
Absolutely. Yes.
When they put those women. Unfortunately, it's not as easy in public sector to measure the value that women add. What can we do to close this gap, right? Because you see it I don't think they have a problem, because you can see
performance
the business
is gender neutral.
It is.
Performance is gender neutral.
Absolutely.
But we haven't been able to prove that in public sector. What can we begin to do? And even part of what our coalition can do to start to show that exactly what's happening in the private sector is exactly what will happen if you put women in these positions in public sector.
Well, I have some good news. I mean, that gives me hope in the current administration of, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The head of service is a woman, and she is a HR expert, very, very competent. And I do believe she's carrying out a lot of transformation in the civil service, which is a key agency, right? So I think, definitely over time, a performance management framework will be put in place. And I'm aware, I don't have the details, but also we have a special advisor in the current administration in the person of Hadiza Bala Usman. And she is managing performance of members of the cabinet. I mean, that is where it starts. So this is a progressive government, in that respect. And I think that, things are going in the right direction. And if we see more of that, we will definitely see a change. But I mean, I just think that we shouldn't end this conversation without, putting it out there, what the statistics look like. I mean, a population of 230 million Nigerians, 50% of which are women. Only 10% of that population are female in elected office.
Is it up to 10%?
16.7%. It's actually less than 5% across elected. Across board.
It's less than 5%.
Less than 5%.
Thank you for the correction.
Yes.
16.7%
appointed.
Yes. Less than 4% in the National Assembly.
4.5% based on the report, updated data.
3.7% in the local governments. No female governor. Never a female president. Never a female vice president. and on and on.
Never a female speaker, never a female Senate president.
It has
elected.
It's not
female
okay.
speaker.
It has to change.
It's not okay. And there are now 15 states, I believe, that have no woman in their state assemblies.
At all.
This is what the report is saying.
And then you have states that have only one woman in the cabinet,
In the
which
entire
is the
Commissioner for Women Affairs.
In fact,
And then
wasn't there a state that had
you
a
have states
male
that
as
have
a
men
as Commissioner
for Women Affairs as
Yes,
well.
I think I saw that.
And it's not a good thing.
It's not.
So thank you for calling out the numbers. And that's why we did the report. We wanted a comprehensive place that you can find all of that data, whether it's in private sector and public sector. Hawa, what are we going to do differently? How can we move from advocacy to action? I think it's really, really important that we move from advocacy. So as a coalition, we'll continue to advocate. But if we want those things to manifest in 2027, 2031, how do we move from advocacy to action? What can we do? Do we need to start showing scorecards?
Absolutely.
I guess
Do we
so.
need to start naming and shaming? What do we
yes.
need to do practically?
That's one of the things that we're looking at. Actually, we have developed a dashboard that shows where each state is at every point in time. So the number of women in cabinet in every state, number of women in parliament in every state, number of women in leadership positions in government and parastatals and agencies, so that when you put it out there and they see it, they are pushed, to up their game for those that are lagging behind. So I saw a trend recently. We just had local government elections in some states. So what I saw was that most of the states will have male as the local government chairman, but then some states automatically gave the VP chair to the woman. States like Adamawa gave all the
Adamawa has
the
I think they have
vice
the highest,
chair seats to women. It was not even allowed to be contested for. So that's progressive, in a state in the north. And so we are hoping that most states will emulate that, because he was celebrated, funny enough. So, I mean...
And other people will be looking at that
exactly.
and be like,
So we're hoping
Absolutely.
that in the next coming years and in 2027, a lot of things will change. There's so much hope. I can tell you that, because we're putting it in their faces every day to say, this is what is happening. This is what the demand is. This is what we want to see. And we're getting that support. Again, like we rightly mentioned earlier on, men allies are also
Very
speaking
important.
for us, because it is not a woman's issue. This gender agenda is not a woman's issue. We need them to push side by side with us to ensure that women are included in running the affairs of the state, because they can definitely see growth when they include women in their cabinet.
If I may just add, just say that we really need to celebrate. We really need to celebrate the champions, for that catalytic effect.
So that's a practical step. Celebrate the champions.
Celebrate the champions. Really showcase them. Really recognize them for the effort that they've put in, so that it has that contagion effect of
Fabulous.
followership.
Well, we'll take another break, and when we return, we'll take questions from our audience.
This conversation has been so amazing. I really love it. So, but my question is, do you really believe that if Nigerian women are being involved in the leadership of this country, that is really going to make a difference in how Nigeria is being governed?
All right, Mrs. Ojona.
Okay, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the issue is that we're flying with one wing. So imagine a picture where there's full inclusion. At the end of the day, it's not just the women that are going to benefit from that. It's our shared prosperity. So both men and women benefit, collectively from that advancement.
Absolutely. Mr. Demi,
Absolutely. And I just like to add, and I think it might be useful to do a study on it, because, this year, WIMBIS focused on women in law. And one of the things that came out of that was that, coming into law school, there are typically more women, and I think that's across, not just in law. So you have more women go to school, graduate, But when they then start working, when they get into careers, that's when they start to taper off. So my point is that I think it's useful to do some research as to the intelligent quotient of women. I kind of feel that women perhaps, and this is not a gender agenda, I think that women perhaps have, because of the nurturing nature that we have, I think we make better leaders because we look at things holistically. Women don't take as much risk as men do because they look at things from different angles. And that gives something to our leadership, which if is properly harnessed, and women actually get their fair share of leadership, then we're going to see magic happen in Nigeria.
Fabulous. All right, let's take our next question.
Thank you for the opportunity given. As a normal citizen, especially men, how can we support the leadership balance that the coalition is calling for?
I mean, unfortunately for you, Hawa, the entire Nigeria Governors Forum is men. So you're in a good position to answer that question.
I guess is to also see the benefit, of what the coalition is campaigning for. Women in leadership position, empowering women, so that the economy would grow. Just like Mrs. O mentioned, you're flying with one wing.
Yes.
You have sisters as men, you have daughters, you have wives, and you definitely would know that bringing different perspectives to the table would bring more, to the table. So the way I see men supporting is by encouraging their women, their daughters, their wives, to go out there and put themselves out, to the opportunities that are already here.
Yes.
The most important thing is we're not talking about it. The opportunities are there. We just need to take it. We need the men to push.
Yes.
Sometimes you even have the opportunity, but you're even skeptical about taking it. Again, I will always bring back, some of the experiences that I have lived. A friend of mine once said to me, she got a promotion, but she didn't know, she was not excited. She was, it was merited, but she wasn't excited because she didn't know what to tell her husband when she gets home. She just doesn't know, she didn't know how he was going to react. Obviously, it wasn't going to be a pleasant reaction, and so she was skeptical. So imagine if she knew that he was going to celebrate her. She would be excited, and you would definitely see a better version of her when you celebrate. So we need men to celebrate us. We need men to believe in us. We need men to support us every step of the way. We want to work side by side.
Side by side.
We are not going to take charge. We are not saying we want to lead. We are saying we want to lead side by side with the men. So that is the kind of support we want from our brothers, our fathers.
Okay.
I think that's an important point because I see a trend, particularly with young men. They're getting a bit concerned that why all this women advocacy, we're just asking for equal treatment. I mean, I use that word again, equal opportunities, equity, if you will, if that's a better word for them, so that they don't get worried that we want to take over.
Not at all. No,
It's
we
how
have
to take
fathers,
over.
we have sons,
Absolutely.
we love them, and we just want
we
them
marry
to...
them.
Yes,
We birth them.
We want them to support, we want them to support the actualization of our own dreams.
Absolutely. And that's not too much to ask.
It's not.
So as we wrap up this conversation, I want you to think about one barrier that if you had the opportunity to redesign, to give Nigerian women what they really want, what would that be?
So I think it's political leadership. I think it's political leadership because everything starts and stops there. Policies will change, so all these things that we're beating our heads about. So if we have equal representation at the highest level of political leadership in Nigeria, a lot of things will change. So if we can break that barrier, imagine if we had 5 governors, at the very least, to even start with 5 governors. And then imagine the day that we wake up and we have a female president.
Look at that.
So, I mean, I can tell you that that's the most significant barrier. If we can break the political leadership barrier, then we're home and dry.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so I believe political barrier again, because, even the system, the political system doesn't even allow women to be part of the politics. And when I say politics, I'm talking about even from the party level. You know, the structure and the system and the culture of politics does not favor women at all. You have meetings late into the night. It doesn't favor any woman. You have to put in a lot of funds to be able to, you know, contest for a seat. It doesn't favor a woman because we are not in the same financial position with the men. And then you have the godfatherism, which unfortunately is also a disadvantage to us. So if we're able to break those barriers, I think that political representation would go up to a certain extent, and then we'll see a full representation of women in politics.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Mrs. O.
Thank you. So we haven't heard of any godmother in politics. just on a light note, but I want to also look at the private sector, because I think the private sector is very, very important in every economy. So the public sector, of course, is hugely important and has the largest influence. But I think the private sector can also play a push effect. And so I think that from the private sector side, I think one of the biggest barriers, and if we can achieve that in the private sector, which is institutionalization of processes and frameworks, like mentorship, you know, frameworks to build the capacity, to ensure the intentionality and deliberateness to build up, you know, that female leadership, then I think that we'll begin to see a change. And even the public sector would then be pulled in by force when they see all private sector organizations operating like that, for them to also follow the change. So I think it's both political leadership and also, you know, institutional leadership to change, you know, to overcome the barriers in private.
The call from the Nigerian Women in Leadership Coalition reminds us that real progress demands bold reforms like parental policies that value family, boardrooms that reflect balance, and governments that mirror the people they serve. I would like to thank our guests for today's conversation. Thank you so much. It has been very insightful. And of course, to our incredible audience for their energy. And thanks to our viewers also for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and share your reflections on this episode using the hashtag #TheNigeriaWeWant. I'm Abosede Jojogan, and until the next episode, remember, women's leadership can change everything, everywhere.